Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Welcome to the last episode of 2024. It's just Chris here again. Anna is still gallivanting somewhere else in the world, probably the United Kingdom. I guess that's where she's sort of from. She's back in 2025. And I thought, who could best, co-host a show with me that hasn't been on for a while? And I went through my Rolodex. I'm old. I flipped through, page after page after page. And I came up across a few names, but I settled on one who's joined us before, someone I've known for a long time in the Smealosphere. It is JJ Guerrero, sometimes podcast listener, full-time Blogfather, as we like to call him. And he's tapped in for Anna this week. Welcome, JJ.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well.
Best for last, eh?
That is exactly it. The last episode of the calendar year, we wheel out the best of them.
I'll choose to think of it that way. No, it's great to be on, man. It's been so long. Great to see you again. Great to talk to you again.
Yeah, and for listeners who haven't, listened to the show for a while, haven't been around the Smealosphere forever, JJ Guerrero founded Canucks Hockey Blog. Like, this would have been, 2007, 2008?
Oh, man, it seems like a lifetime ago.
Or was it before that?
Yeah, this was like the advent of social media, and the Canucks did not have social media at the time. They were looking to start up their social media. Kevin Kinghorn, who actually just coincidentally I just ran into this last couple of days ago in Portland, was trying to put that.
He works for the Portland Trailblazers.
Right,
Trailblazers now. Used to work for them.
Portland, Oregon, not Portland, Maine. And, the Canucks wanted to get on the social media bandwagon, and Kevin got a hold of a bunch of us ragtag Canucks bloggers, vloggers, and, podcasters back in the day and got us all together. And I think that's when we met. Hey, Chris, you're right. That was probably close to 17 years ago.
It was a long time. I think you were on the buses in all the, Canucks marketing before we actually met. You and the ragtag group of people, as you described, that got brought in. But I mean, you were a podcaster before I was a podcaster, and there are some out there that like to think I'm the Canucks grandfather podcaster type. Well, I'm old, but I've been doing this for
you're not as old as Clay.
Very long time. No, I'm not as old as Clay. But you had the Crazy Canucks podcast, Canucks Hockey Blog. We met sort of in the before times of Canucks social media, and then it took off from there. And you've obviously, moved on to much grander things. Me, I'm still stuck in my mom's basement talking about the Canucks.
Well, I was good. If it makes you feel better, I'm sitting in my boxers, and I've got Cheetos and Mountain Dew with me. So I'm with you, buddy.
You fit in perfect. I thought with this episode, we're going to do things a little bit different. JJ and I are going to riff on the Vancouver Canucks. It is the last episode of the year. There's not going to be a rewind. There's not going to be a half full, half empty. We're not going to do a full-on review since our last sort of real show. So the last real episode was recorded, the start of December. We had our holiday live show on YouTube where Anna joined us. That was back on the 14th. A lot has happened with Vancouver Canucks. But JJ, I thought you and I could just, talk about the Canucks in the general sense as to how they exist currently. And I'd like to pick your brain on a few topics du jour, so to speak.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, they like to make news not just on the ice, but off the ice, don't they? I think that's just just Canucks Nation.
Yeah, so, first question, why can us Canucks fans not have nice things?
Well, we did for about a few months there, right? think back to
Well,
the spring of 2024. I mean, that was probably the best. That was probably the best couple of months in Canucks Nation in 13 years or so, right?
well,
And then,
probably. Well, you count there was the bubble, right? The bubble playoffs, which
oh
was
yeah, I
like
guess
a
there's the
mirage,
bubble. Yeah, yeah,
right? But then it would have been like 2011.
yeah.
I don't know if we count that, Willie playoff season, even though the Canucks were top of the division during that. Was it, I think, Willie
That was
Desjardins' first year as a head coach?
that was Jim Benning's first year at the helm. And yeah, I think we all thought,
And
hey, you
Jim
know
we
what? Yeah,
trusted.
maybe things are going to turn around.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work out that way. Uh, we had hey, you know what? The start of 2024 was great, right? And I know this
It
isn't
was.
meant to be a flashback show, but if you look at the start of the calendar year, Canucks were one of the best teams in the league. They had a heck of a playoff run. Uh, the new management group was doing their thing, and high expectations to start this season, and yeah, it's just hasn't gone the way that I think management expected it to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate because I think Anna and I spoke about this prior to the start of the season. Maybe it's time to sort of temper expectations. Last year was probably beyond anyone's expectations, so bring ourselves down to earth. But then it's like Earth was trying to, have us pay a slight price. Like gravity had taken hold, and what had gone up was being pulled hard back into the ground. Like the Vancouver Canucks have dealt with some injuries. It's not like an injury bug. It's just a variety of injuries that continue to happen. You had Demko, who was close to starting the conference final, to not returning until end of November, start of December. It's sort of a blur now. He is back,
Yeah,
but you had that. You had JT Miller, obviously away for reasons. Might have been a physical injury. It might have been a mental fatigue. It might have been something. Who knows? You have Philip Hronek, who is away until probably February, having suffered a pretty significant injury and then having surgery not related to the injury. And there's some more injuries as of late. But even if those injuries weren't present, it feels to me that maybe our expectations should have been where they are now. Like this team had punched well above their weight class last season.
yeah, and you're right. I mean, I think like last season, everything that could go right basically went right. They were injured. They were a healthy team, and they bought into the new system, and I think they took big steps in changing the culture of that team. And but man, it doesn't it seem like we're having 2 years worth of injuries in like 3 months right now. Right? Like everything that could go wrong just went wrong. And I mean, you listed all the injuries there, and it's not just the injuries. I mean, I don't know if you guys. I'm assuming you guys have spent some time talking about the whole PD Miller thing, and you know,
Well,
like
I actually, that's a question I'm going to ask you in a moment. What are your thoughts on the Miller PD thing? But go on.
well, no, I was just gonna say, like, I mentioned it's not just the injuries. Like, there's all these different things that seem to be plaguing the team now. So I'll go back to your question about the expectations, and did we expect too much this year? Yeah, probably, right? Like, progression isn't always a straight line, and the Canucks the team did very well last year. Still expect them to make the playoffs this year. Would love for them to win another round. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
but uh, I don't think it was realistic to expect them to say be a Stanley Cup contender this year. They're still, they still play close to the cap. Uh, they don't have a lot of young players that are contributing, like a lot of cap teams do, and that's probably another year away if you look at, say, like uh, Lecker and Wielander, coming up.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so my expectations this year, I think my expectations this year is the same as it was last year. be a playoff team, win a round or two. You know, put some money on them in Vegas, 85-1, make the conference finals or whatever it is. Right? Like, I think that would have been, not 8.5-1. You know, like those were good odds for me.
Yeah.
I'd take them, right?
Okay.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this management team navigates the next couple of months. From now to the trade deadline, with all the injuries that are there, PD's out week to week, Hughes is out week to week, although Dollywall said, was it probably less than 3 weeks, Hughes will be back, right?
Yeah.
The whole PD Miller thing, can they get past it? You know? And then what do? You know, once everyone's back on the ice, they're probably still a wild card team right now. You know, what's Alvin cooking?
Well, you know, I want to talk a little bit about the 2 injuries you just referenced. So, Quinn Hughes, leading up to the game on the 23rd, was rumored to be a game time decision, which sent panic through Canucks Nation. Like, you look at the player who currently leads the team in most categories, it's Quinn Hughes. Like, he is, for argument's sake, Norris winner hands down. I mean, he's got the most points of any player in the NHL since like start of November. He is the most important player to this Canucks team.
100%.
And so when he is rumored to be a game time decision, I think it's very reasonable that we would panic. But what does Quinn do? You know, he does what he needs to. He takes the pregame warm up. He's out on the ice. He skated a team high 24-45 on the 23rd, a game in which the Canucks won due to some of his contribution. He's now out week to week. And yes, Dhaliwal has suggested it won't be many, many weeks. It might just be a week or two. But if he was that hurt that he, you know, is now out weeks, one, was it smart to have played him on the 23rd? Do you think it was an educated guess by the team to say, hey, we've got a few days off between the game in Seattle or against Seattle after the Christmas break? Or is it, you know, your captain who's trying to lead by example and maybe being a little ambitious? Regardless of all that, he played a team high 24-45.
That's right, yeah. And he's captain, right? Like he's got to set the tone. You know, he said he'll play. You know he'll play, right?
Yeah, he'll play on crutches. Or in this case, I don't know what you would use to like a play in a sling.
Or I don't know what you do, right? Like, well, and you know, it's tough when you know. I mean, these guys are wired differently, right? Like you and I can talk about this and say, oh yeah, if he was hurt, why didn't the team just sit him, right? But you know, these guys, this is what they do for a living. They make millions of dollars to do it, right? Like, wrist is a little sore, they'll play through it, right? Knees a little sore, they'll play through it. You know, like give me some painkillers or whatever. And I know that's a whole other conversation, but that's I don't know. Like it's just the way that they're wired, and it's how they approach the game. And you know, if they can play, they'll play, right? And I think it just comes down.
And I'm not trying to. Yeah, and I'm not trying to suggest that Quinn Hughes should be playing. If he's hurt, he's hurt. He needs to get better. He is the heart and soul of this Canucks team. The Canucks are infinitely better with him on the ice. It's just a shame that whatever has happened, he played, and now he's not. Yeah. And I'm not suggesting not playing means he's not week to week. Like, who knows? Is that game, you know, nothing in the grand scheme of things? But the Vancouver Canucks are now without their top blue line pairing. And the transition from the top blue line pairing in Hughes and Hronek to whatever you want to call what's next.
We basically have
a chasm.
I saw the D pairings earlier today, or the potential D pairings for tomorrow, and it's basically like you got like 6 bottom pair defensemen right now. Right?
Well, there was a post on Canucks Reddit about Tyler Myers' fancy stats, and his stats currently don't suggest that he's a seventh line defenseman. Now, Myers has had a year, unfortunately, not in the positive sense. And if there isn't a way to epitomize how his season has gone, simply watch the overtime against the Seattle Kraken and see what Tyler Myers did to contribute to a 2-0 breakaway.
Oh my gosh. That was a hell of a game, by the way.
Okay, if you're a Kraken fan, sure.
3 goals in 4.5
the Vancouver
minutes.
Canucks had a 3-goal lead, 4.5 minutes left. They had a 2-goal lead with less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I think I put this up on Blue Sky because I was down in Portland and I was listening to the game on we were driving down and Tracy needed to grab something from CVS, so we popped in 4-1, right? I was like, okay, yeah, this game's over. There's only a few minutes left, right? And then didn't even think anything of it, got back into the car, drove to the hotel, checked into the hotel, checked the score, and saw the final. And I was like, what the heck just happened?
Oh, it was something, JJ.
Oh,
I watched that game live. It was
actually,
it was something.
The best part is we get into a room and I'm playing around on TV or whatever, just checking out the channels. What sports can you get down here in Portland? And of course, they had they were actually showing the Kraken Canucks game. It was one of the, I don't know if it was their whatever their local channel is or whatever that plays sports or whatever, and they were doing the post game summary and all that kind of stuff, and saw the and I'm doing air quotes here, highlights, right? I mean, for Kraken fans, they are highlights. For us Canucks fans, I mean, holy smokes, what a choke.
They showed a statistic. The Kraken I can remember it was like a 7-game slide or something like that. They'd outscored 1,000,000 to 3.
Yeah.
Well, Vancouver helped sort that out. Anyhow, the point is the Vancouver Canucks lost 5-4 against the Kraken in their first game without Quinn Hughes, but also missing was Elias Pettersson, who in that same game before the holidays scores 2 goals in quick succession. In fact, I think that is
probably the
Canucks
best game that
record
PD's
for
played.
2 fastest goals.
Best game PD's played in months.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say months. He had a pretty good period of play just before JT took his leave of absence. PD played quite well while JT was away.
He did play well.
Sort of took another.
But
that game was old school.
That shot was back, and I honestly thought he was going to score 3 or 4 goals that game. Like that second goal that he scored, I think it was the second goal, the one on the power play, right? Like that shot, just that wrister. I mean, that was like vintage Petey, right? Like rookie Petey, scoring. Did he score 3 or 4 goals against Colorado that one game? You remember that? Like his rookie season? That's what I totally reminded me of. Yeah.
I mean, caveat against the San Jose Sharks, but regardless of who they were playing, it was the shot, where he was taking it, how he was taking it, and you could almost see after that second goal, the swag was kind of back.
Yeah.
Right, like that's what's been missing, the confidence. Like you've seen PD at least this season almost look to dish it off, and that's often a sign of a player who doesn't really trust themselves and is trying to help someone else to, perform where they don't think they can. But PD takes one shift in the third period, doesn't return. And he is out for what Tocchet says is about a week. Tocchet says it's a week away. I think it was Jeff Patterson had suggested that PD's dealing with some stuff. Now, again, that's something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Did the Canucks as an organization need to get someone down to the dressing room and do like a seance or something?
Well, wasn't there some talk a few years ago about that? Like just exercise all the demons that GM plays back in the day, right?
Maybe.
Like, you remember that?
Oh, I think Buzz Bishop, I think, was trying to spearhead that. Like, Yeah, exercise demons have a seance.
Like
Holy water. I
right
think it was like
outside
the
gate
whole thing.
5 or whatever it is. Just do
Yeah.
whatever it is, right?
I'm pretty sure it was Buzz Bishop who might have been involved. I shouldn't say that with certainty. It may not have been Buzz, so don't be going after him. I do recall what you're or describing, and I subscribe to the theory that it might have been him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it's just something's going on, and I've seen there's suggestions in Canucks social media that the Canucks need to revisit their human performance department, which is, if you didn't already know this, they've revisited it. Like, it's happened. The new management group made changes.
Well, and I think isn't that what kind of Petey's been going through, right? I mean, you talk about a player's confidence and all that, and it is all mental. It is all mindset. I mean, you and I are both girl dads, and I'm sure we both have had to have a chat with our daughters about the mental part of the game as well. And I think Petey's been going through that, and I mean, you're right. Like, it looked like it helped, like for a stretch of games there, when JT was away, Petey stepped up. We thought he was back.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's going on here.
Well, on that note, people, you hear things. What's going on between JT and Elias?
Oh, gosh. That's a good question, Chris. That's a really good question. I think you and I pretty much hear the same thing, and they're not always the same thing. It really depends who you talk to, right? Depends who's texting you, and there's some people out there that are of the mind that are of the opinion that this is overblown. There's some people that are saying that this is a true rift between the two. The one thing that I haven't heard, outside of maybe some media speculation, is that this is beyond repair. I think these guys are still pro athletes, and from what I've heard anyway, I mean, they're trying to find their way through it. They don't have to be best friends, but they're gonna play through it. I haven't heard anything that suggests that this relationship is irreparable and one or both of them need to be gone. I don't know if you have.
So what I have heard is that maybe not beyond repair, but the organization is beyond done with what's going on. So now, what does that mean? I don't know. I think it was Drager today had commented that what he's been hearing is that the other teams around the league have decided to pick up the phone and inquire about the services of one JT Miller.
They should.
What we had what we had been hearing before the holidays was that the phone was ringing about, hey, how's Petey these days? I feel, one, that the organization, if there is a problem, needs to entertain these phone calls. But two, I would not be shocked if one or the other is shown another opportunity elsewhere. The thing about that is one of those two players has some say-so. And if the team has got to that point where we're going to find a solution for this, it pains me to think that the player who has the say-so is not the one who has the highest ceiling.
Right. And the guy that currently does not have trade protection is also, was it 5 years younger? Basically, right in the should be hitting the prime of his career. Now, if I'm a general manager in the National Hockey League, and and I am from my couch usually.
Well, you're a very
good one. Yep, one of the best, and I would be picking up the phone too. Right? I mean, every GM should be out there trying to make their team better, and when you have players, and it doesn't matter if it's Petey or JT, right? Like these guys are all stars, right? If there's even a chance that one or both of those guys are available to improve my team, hell yeah, I'm picking up the phone. I'm going to ask, hey, what's it going to take, right? So I think that's normal, and I'm in the same token, like I'm sure Patrick Alvin, hearing or knowing what's going on around the league, he would pick up the phone if there's players of the same caliber that could potentially be available, right? So, yeah, but what do they do? What do they do? Like, do they keep both of them and hope for the best, or?
Well, okay, that was actually one of the other questions I was going to ask you. Do you believe both are with the Vancouver Canucks after the trade deadline?
I think honestly, my feeling is they will be. Honestly, that's just my gut feeling, right? Like
Okay. Now, is that because the team doesn't make a move, or because the team isn't in a position that a move makes sense?
I think it'll be more of the latter. Like it's got to make sense for them, right? Like, although like what you mentioned there about the front office, maybe being that point about the front office, maybe getting sick and tired of this whole thing. I mean, you can't you can't understate the impact of that, right? If they want to move on from these guys, they'll make the move. Maybe they won't, but then you're dealing from kind of a position of weakness.
Well, I don't think it's they want to move on from the two players. It's that they want to move on from the drama.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. So how much do they force a move then if that's the case? Right. Like what if the right deal's not there? Do they just trade one of them for the
I don't feel you
heck of doing?
I don't feel you make it. But therein lying the issue is that instead of having one more movable piece, you'll have two relatively unmovable pieces once trade protection, kicks in for Petey. And I'm not suggesting Petey should be the one to go. Like, I am of the opinion, if you are really looking to move one of the two, the one you try to move is Miller. I feel Miller has more value to a win now team.
Yeah.
And, you know what you're getting with Miller, right? Like he is where he is at his peak. You know what you have. But with Petey, there's still room. There's a player who could become even better. There's no guarantee, but again, that's just sort of where I sit. One thing though, I wanted to bounce off you only because it came up just before the holidays. Sarah Sivian had asked a question. Hey, can someone explain the Canucks drama? And Eddie Lack, who, Eddie, real sound, thought professional,
realtor
thought
Eddie
leader
Lack?
here. Yeah, realtor Eddie Lack apparently knows a thing or two about hockey. His response is this. Petey was an amazing painter at school. Then JT came in and stole Petey's crayons. Petey bought new crayons, but he's afraid of using them unless JT is homesick from school. How's that?
I saw that and I just started laughing. Like, doesn't it just sound like the perfect analogy?
Oh, it is. It totally is. And when he posted that, like I shared it in C4 Discord, and it's not like I was trying to tell people, oh, Eddie knows something. I mean, he might, but the way he describes it, yeah, that's totally how it looks like. You've got, a strong individual who has frightened an equally strong individual in many ways. And that person's just a little apprehensive around the other individuals.
Well, and let's be let's be honest here, right? Like, JT has always had the better wingers, has he not? He's played with
even in this season. He's had the better
who did Petey
wingers.
have? Petey played with McKayev, Lafferty. Like, these are all 13th forward guys, right? I know he gets a lot. He has a lot of flack, and he should. I mean, he's an $11.6 million player. He should make his wingers better, and there's a point to that. But as an organization, you're also thinking, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to pay this guy $11 million and saddle him with a bunch of 13th forwards, right? Like, can you imagine McDavid playing with Sam Lafferty and McCabe on a night-to-night basis, right? Like, come on. So, I don't know. Maybe
There's only one way to slow McDavid down. That might be it.
that's right. That's right. So, you know what? Eddie Lack's got a point. Miller's
Yeah.
painting with PD's crayons.
Well, I mean, so Sat joined, and I'd asked, like, why did it take so long before, Petey and DeBrusk got put together? Because DeBrusk was with Miller for the longest time, and Sat, had answered, they didn't look so good in the preseason, but it's a good question to ask, because it was, JT's absence that suddenly made that happen. Jake DeBrusk, Petey's crayon.
Yep. And you know what? Petey and DeBrusk look like they've got some
Anyhow.
good chemistry there, right? A few games that they played together.
Well, they do. And when did that occur? When JT's absence required Petey to elevate his game, but also forced, Jake and Petey to play together. And the two who probably needed a little more time to cook, just weren't given it until it was out of necessity. They're cooking, or they were. Now, one of the chefs or painters is at home.
Yeah. This analogy's gone all over the place.
Oh, well. Yeah, it has. As I know your time is short. We wrap things up here. We're going into 2025. The Vancouver Canucks are, as of this recording, still in a playoff position, despite all of the troubles they've experienced. If there's one thing that the Vancouver Canucks have been able to do, it's get loser points. They currently lead the NHL in loser points.
Manage your losses.
So with all of everything that has transpired, they could, when players get healthy, turn things around. What do you think? You think this team, if you were to sort of reset your expectations, is still going to give you good money and be in a conference final? Or is it now, I really hope the team makes the playoffs?
Well, I think the team will make the playoffs. I think they'll get past this, right? I mean, and I say that assuming that the injuries to Petey and Hughes aren't serious, and they will be back in a week or two. Roenick should be back, I think, another 4 weeks or something like that, right? Knock on wood, nothing else happens, and they should have the full squad back. I do fully expect them to make the playoffs. The one thing that I really like about this regime is they know they can read this team, and they're not afraid to make adjustments on it. They don't double down on mistakes, right? Like the previous regime. They don't extend, 13 forwards, 3x4 or whatever it is, right? Like they know when it's time to cut loose. So I expect that. I expect there's going to be some changes, some tweaks for sure. And as Petey and Hughes and Roenick get healthy, they'll make the playoffs. Now, will they make the conference finals? I think that'd be nice. But again, my expectation for this team this season was to maybe make the second round of the playoffs again. So, anything more than that is a bonus. I think it's only a disappointing season if they don't make the playoffs. But yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
Okay, well, you heard it here first, because you're not hearing any of this anywhere else in the 136 other Vancouver Canucks podcasts.
You guys don't aren't sponsored by any betting companies, right? Like you don't put that.
No.
So I don't put money down or anything like that.
No. I mean, we could be, like, now that Matt, who works for BCLC, isn't here, we could be, but he left and the sponsorships just didn't come pouring in.
We're gonna have to have a chat with Mr. Lee there.
Know your limit and
right.
play within it. JJ, any final words of wisdom for all of our listeners as we wrap things up?
Hey, you know what? It's the last year and a half. I mean, drama aside, it's been fun watching the team again. I'll be the first to admit I haven't followed the team as much. Kind of the latter part of the previous regime. I just lost a lot of interest. But the last year and a half, this team, how they changed how they played. Like the change in the culture from Rutherford to Alvin to Tocchet. the emphasis on skill, bringing all the veterans like the Sedins and the Adam Foots and all these guys that have made it. Um, I think it's made a big difference, and it really has been fun to kind of watch the team again. So yeah.
I
So
agree.
I'm happy to be, and thanks for the invite, Chris. Like, I appreciate appreciate taking the time to chat hockey. I haven't done this in a while, and I'm happy to do it. Right, like uh, for all the listeners out there, just buckle up. It's part of being a Canucks fan, right? Just buckle up. It's gonna be fun.
I mean, you and I are of the same generation. We've been cheering for a long time to know when we say buckle up, we
That's
mean
great.
it. You can find JJ on all the social media platforms at Canucks Hockey, the social media handle he stole from the Vancouver Canucks before they were on social media. I mean, they're at Canucks now, so in fairness, they got what they wanted. But there is a reason why they were at Van Canucks for the longest time. And also one of the reasons why at Canucks Hockey on Twitter in the old days at one point had more followers than the Vancouver
That's
Canucks
right.
did. Probably because of all of the, hard-hitting analysis we provided on
Yeah, I
CHP.
apologize for everyone that mistakenly followed my Twitter account instead of the official account.
Do not apologize. It was by design. It was by design. If you've reached this point of the show, go give JJ a follow. Again, he's at Canucks Hockey's on Blue Skies on Twitter. He's everywhere. Give him your thoughts. Couple cents, whatever it happens to be. And if you have a couple cents left over, go to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast. Throw them our way. Buy myself a pint. Buy Anna a pint. Subscribe monthly or annually and get one of those exclusive C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast stickers. Join our Discord, discord.io/C4 Podcast, and the entire back catalog at c4podcast.com. So on behalf of JJ, myself, Chris, and the missing in action Anna, we out.